Was watching at all. Yeah, so yeah, I'm trying to live stream, so say hello and stuff. I don't know how long it'll last for. I reckon if I can get 10 folk on, I think I'm aiming too high there. I might start my bucket. So this video, I'm just going to do my usual video, going for my most expensive guitars ever. This isn't one of them. This is, I was just playing this because I was playing it. So, third most expensive guitar ever, which was also my third most, probably my fourth electric guitar is my 90s SG. Yay! Oh, second, damn it, I managed to mess it up already. This is the second most expensive guitar I've ever bought. Decided when I started playing the guitar, it was SG I wanted because Tony Iommi, Angus Young, well maybe not Angus Young at the time, Tony Iommi, George Harrison and Pete Townsend and everyone seemed to, Robbie Krieger at the Doors, everyone seemed to play the SGs. So I wanted SG, AGW. What did I say there? Yeah, so I decided once I could play the solo and War Pigs on my Epiphone SG, I was going to buy a Gibson one. Well, to be honest, I was just waiting till I found one cheap, like a bargain price. So, oh, that kind of was better to start with. So I I've never really got further than that. It wasn't the first thing I think I could play for more than about 3 minutes, so that counted. So although I've already messed up the order of such things, I did a video of this not that long ago. So 90s, this one's got an ebony fretboard, which was quite common for the era for these. Hey Daniel. Yeah, so what I maybe didn't tell you was I remember being on the phone to a guy, David Howie, not quite David Bowie, but I put it in my phone as David Bowie. Was working for him, and I was talking to him, and this was leaning against in my old room, leaning against the sofa, and I put it down to answer the phone, and I just watched it slowly go, and it just went boing off the one bit of floor that didn't have a carpet. Took the headstock off. So I've had the headstock repair. It wasn't the finish was always coming off the back of the neck, and I bought this in like 98 or something like that, or 99, and it wasn't really that old, but it was well used. Maybe it was just well used when I got it. And
at various times I tried putting metal covers on the pickups and stuff like that, and that sticker is off the special edition of their Satanic Majesty's Request by the Stones, which I stuck it on there. I think it might. I was even when Doctor Who came back on, I stuck a couple of Doctor Who stickers only on the scratch plate. Though I don't like stickers on guitars. Yeah, and it's also got this rusty metal washer here, so the strap doesn't fall off. A well-used guitar. This strap, which looks pretty grotty actually. I got it free from a pal, Ewan, who bought a yellow strap for his guitar and thought it looked terrible, so I got it for nothing. And I was like, yellow, red, goes well. So I stuck with it. I used to have a Move badge on it, but it seems to have fallen off at some point. It's probably lying on the floor or in its case or something like that. So I suppose we'll move on to I'll go on to my third most expensive guitar ever. This is before I knew about cheap guitars. So as I said, that was my first guitar was a Honor Rockwood Strat. Then I had a Yamaha RGX with a Floyd Rose, which I hated. The Honor had a bent neck, and what else? Yeah, then my Phone SG on my 19th birthday, and then maybe about a year later I bought the SG. This I got a wee bit later. This is after I got the bass version of it. This is a Schecter Telecaster. Quite a rare one. I kind of felt sorry for the guy who sold it to me because he was wanting like twice what I ended up paying for it, but he fell into the same trap which we all do on eBay. You know, you stick it on for a bargain price, hoping that people bid on it, and I went round and tried it, and as soon as I played it, it was just like, this is the best guitar I've ever played. I was purely interested in it because it looked the same colour as that one. But this is 1986 or something like that. Back in the day when these were about, Schecter didn't make whole guitars. They were they were like a Fender licensed spare parts company. So you could in theory buy all the parts to upgrade your Fender. And it was, I think their thing was like, round about that time, Fender weren't doing particularly well, you know, like quality wise. That was when, you know, basically all the American companies weren't doing so that well. That's why the Japanese sort of took over. So these were making like, I think they were the first ones that ever introduced a 6-saddle Telecaster bridge. They may have been the first ones that ever had a humbucker that fitted into a Telecaster bridge as well. Push-pull pots, it's already pulled, are rare in this era as well. These are Schecter Omni pots, and if you ever look up, basically, they don't look the same in the back. They just do the same as what a modern push-pull pot does, but if you look them up on eBay, they're like hundreds of pounds each. Yeah, so these pickups are OBL, which is Bill Lawrence, who was working for Gibson and then fell out with Gibson and tried to make his own pickups. Original Bill Lawrence made them in Germany, apparently, and for like a year before you get the cease and desist thing. So that's what these are. Very rare to see smooth covered, cream coloured humbuckers. These are 400s, L400, something like that. Apparently they were specially designed to be really good for coil splitting. I just reading the sales bump on these things, but it does sound like a Tele. So this is it in single coil mode bridge pickup. Clean. Neck pickup. Both pickups. Single coil. So these are as I was saying, they're meant to be more of a copy of the sort of 50s Tele rather than the original ones, even though it does kind of look what you now class as a modern one. So it's got the truss rods in the fender end, not up at the top. It's also got staggered tuners, which I don't know. You can actually see there, like, see, there's like 3 different sizes of tuner. So the posts on these ones are longer, and then the ones in the middle are middle length, and then the ones in the B and E string are wee stubby ones. That's so you don't need a string tree, but there's a string tree anyway. So I don't know what they were thinking. Well, because these things didn't actually get made, they were just made up in shops, apparently from parts. So somebody stuck that on when they were made. So basically, I think it was there's various things you could read. I think it was Tom Anderson and blah blah blah. Whoever Sir, the Sir guy, apparently worked in this shop in Dallas or whatever it was, and they kind of on the off time they sold Schecter parts, and then they sort of bolted together Schecters, and then so I don't know if there's another one like this in the world. I've certainly never seen one. I've seen a few that are sort of similar, as in it is a Schecter Telecaster, but I've never seen one that doesn't have a scratch plate, that doesn't have binding. It's got the cream pickups, you know, and I've got no reason to believe that this isn't the way it came. So I think they're kind of, the serial number starts with an A, which I think signifies something. But interesting cheesy things it's got. It's got roller saddles, which although now you can buy roller saddles no problem, I don't think you really got them in 1986. Yeah, so I'll have another wee. I've not done distortion. I always thought the neck pickup in this guitar was amazing. When it's in humbucker mode, it's really woo. I said to start with, if I had 10 views, I was going to start with Bucky. So, cheers. Thanks for giving me the excuse. I just needed an excuse. Lovely. Could be the best neck pickup I've got. As I said when I was looking up, this is the third most expensive guitar. This is my self-imposed, love it. Hey, Raisin Ravensmead, I'm live again, you're right. I have not spent, I bought this long time ago, 2003 or 4 or something like that. I'm trying to remember. Maybe, I don't know, something like that. Probably coming up for 20 years ago. And I always figured that I was not going to spend more money than this guitar unless the guitar was better than this one. And the problem is kind of not really. You could argue you're not going to find a guitar better than this for being like a Tele. It's also I don't know, is it going to show up? It's nitro finished. See, it's all cracked. And if I get the light hitting off it in the right way, it's all it's kind of, it's got that relicing thing which they always talk about on expensive guitars, where it kind of cracks and stuff like that, to let the sound breathe or something. Anyway, it's a bit different. My favourite sound on it was always neck pickup in humbucker mode and bridge pickup in single coil mode. So this might be my most played guitar actually, because this was like my main guitar for at least a few years. I've no idea what the fingerboard's made of, but it seems to be it's a kind of reddy colour. So I don't think it's rosewood, but it might be. Schecter were always did crazy types of woods. I think before all your bans came in on exporting, you know, like sort of your environmental issues before that. So you get some pure mental looking Schecter necks that are made of the most waviest, fantastic looking Jacaruca and all these things that I don't even know what they're called. There is a code in the body neck pocket which tells you what it is, but I could never find out what it was. I did find out on the base what it was made of. So this could be almost anything. Not the most flashy of guitars. I have seen there's a wee guitar shop down in Kirky. the guy has one, or there's one in there, which is the closest I've ever seen to this, and I looked for years to try and see another one the same. His has a maple neck. It has these pickups, but they're black. It's got the 6-saddle bridge. It's got the Telecaster plate, and it's got binding and a sort of flamed top. So it's kind of very close, but not this one. I've never seen one, as I said, I've never seen one that doesn't have binding on it, apart from this one. And I've seen a couple that are have binding are kind of, and it's this exact colour, which doesn't really show up. But I noticed when I stuck these two in the wall the other night when I was, I've moved my, I'm going to try and rotate the guitars behind me for something to look at. So I'm now going for, I've got a pointy section with a Claymore guitar, my Aria ZZB, my Baby Metal guitar, and my West Tone Raider. And then this is the boring corner, which has got a Fender Strat and a Gibson SG. And then that's my Schecter. Well, just bought a 1984 Ibanez Destroyer. That sounds smashing. I've got an X series Destroyer that I bought in absolutely atrocious condition. But in mind, it's covered in checkerboard plastic. Try and peel it off really carefully, because you might find it's actually really good at it. My Flying V was the scratch plate was entirely wrapped in duct tape. You know, this sort of silver gaffer tape, and it was all tatty. It looked atrocious, and there was parts of the body were covered in it as well. And I was like, managed to get it off the body, and it's kind of polished up, and it was kind of looking all right. I thought, right, I'll try and take the tape off the scratch plate, and I'll use that as a template to cut a good scratch plate from. And I took it off, and I cleaned, and it was the scratch plate was brilliant. It was there, white, all intact. They're amazing. So it might actually be in much better condition now once you've taken the stuff off than it would have been had it never had the checkerboard on it. That sounds like a very 80s thing to do. But I would like an Ibanez Destroyer, like a proper one. The one I bought was absolutely knackered. I was away on a stag weekend. This before I really knew what I was doing with guitars. I ended up paying, I only paid like 80 quid for it or something like that on eBay. And there was a hole where the bridge should be. It did come with a Floyd Rose, an expensive Floyd Rose, because I decided I didn't want a Floyd Rose instead. And because there was a hole, it's not like, the posts weren't there anymore. So it's not like I would have had to fill the hole and then route it again. So I just basically filled it solid. Jimmy Moon gave me a bit of wood to stick in it and stuck it in. And I sold the Floyd Rose for 80 quid. So I did end up getting it free. That's the one I covered in real snakeskin. And but it was an X series one, which I didn't even notice when I bought it. When I got it through, it was like, what? I just hadn't looked at the pictures properly, because I knew Ibanez Destroyer, Paul Gilbert and all that. It's up here. It's basically an Explorer. This thing's got a big extra cutout in it. But I bet it's smashing. Do you have any Patrick Eggle? I do not know. I don't know anything about Patrick Eggle at all. They're expensive. Like I said, I've never. This is the most This is the last most expensive guitar I've ever bought. So that's the most expensive. That's the second most expensive, and this is the third most expensive. And this was like coming up for 20 years ago, so I've never bought any more than this. They're not guitars that you see bargain. The Patrick Eggles, I don't think. I think, did Tony Iommi not play one for a while? I'm sure he had when I first on one of the 3 guitar magazines I bought in my youth. I'm sure one of them there was a Tony Iommi signature, and I was always thinking, but it's not an SG shape. I'm sure it was Patrick Eggle. I think it had the cross inlays, but it was kind of like sort of super stratty, maybe. So I've gone to the most expensive guitar I've ever bought then. And this is one that I've already told you the story about the Aria ZZB, which I traded in against an Epiphone EBO. Well, I traded the Epiphone EBO in against this bass about a year later. I was using the EBO for probably about a year. Did I ever get to actually play a gig? I don't think I played a gig with the EBO. And at the time, this is back in the days when people only had one guitar. I put I went in and tried in CNC Music in the West End. They had a Fender jazz bass, like a pure amazing cream colour, kind of actually a sort of similar colour to that, which looks like this picture, but was that sort of colour. It was a jazz bass, and it was a 70s one, and it was like 500 quid or something like that. And it was like kind of thinking, yeah, maybe. This all stemmed from actually having a shot of the drummer's pal. Had a Squier P bass, and I had a shot of that, and it was much better than EBO, like much better. And I was like, you're right, I'll just buy one of them. So I think I offered the guy 60 quid for it, because at the time Squier P basses were only 100 quid. And it turned out later that it's he was like, no, I wouldn't take less than 400. It was like, they're only £100, but it was a Squier JV, which I now know what that was. So it was like a Japanese, even though it said Squier on it, it wasn't the same as the ones you were buying for 100 quid. It was just all black. It's like Roger Waters one. And then I thought, right, I need to get a P bass. So I went into CT Music and I tried that jazz bass, and this was a good bit cheaper than it. And I used to laugh at it. It'd been in the shop for years. So I used to laugh at it because I'd never heard of Schecter, and I always thought Schecter sounded a bit like sort of German for Scheiter. And it had this horrible brown scratch plate. It wasn't until I had a shot of it. It was actually Gavin, the guitarist band. So try that. I think that might be quite good. And it was like, as soon as I played it, it was like, oh, this is the one. This is fantastic. So it's like I didn't realise it was a metal scratch plate. I thought it was just brown plastic, but it's not. It's aluminium. It's got a branded bridge. It's got roller saddles on it. Also, these are they're like ornery things, so you can actually change the string spacing by rolling the roller around. It's a DiMarzio pickup, which I checked by using my Allen key. And if you kind of, well, that's how you tell if it's Japanese or not. It's a Japanese DiMarzio looking pickups, even though I'm not really sure they sound any different, are like a metric. I've got like my Allen key set, which is kicking about there, has a metric side and an imperial side. And if it's the imperial side, it is a DiMarzio, and if it's the metric side, it's not. So DiMarzio pickup. When I went out to the car, and when I bought this in the West End, I remember going out and I was sitting there just in the car, just like, I couldn't believe it, because I'd had to wait like 3 weeks because I put the deposit down as in putting in the other bass, and I didn't have a bass, so I borrowed this P bass. I think I borrowed my pal's bass as well, for going into the studio. And then it's like I'd never even heard of such a thing as a push pull pop, but this has got one. It's actually quite noisy. This guitar has been sitting actually. The strings that Peg bought me for my 40th birthday, so that was like 3 years ago. This guitar didn't have strings on it when he got that. When he bought me them, I was like, oh, brilliant. And you bought the light gauge strings. I wanted to try the light gauge strings. How did you know? And he was like, he just bought it because it said, he altered instead of buying me a card, it was a set of bass strings that just said happy 40th on it. So cheers, Peg. So 3 years it took. This has been sitting, not being used, so it's a little bit dusty and not really been played very much, and it's now the first time strung. It's got the most amazing bird's eye maple neck, which you can maybe see a wee bit of it on the headstock, but it was all over the neck and all over the back, and some idiot did all this to it by gigging it and using it and sweating on it, and that was me. A lot of this damage here was done from one night. I thought I went and bought a violin bow to try and do the Jimmy Page thing, and I was using it in the studio, and then decided I didn't like it, but then it took off all the lacquer off its ends. Like, no. I'll have to go to the bass amp. I'm turning the bass amp on, perhaps. I might want to shim the neck a little bit. The action's a little bit high on it just now. Hey Wayne, you're quite right. The most expensive Buckfast was at Brixton Academy. That was the only reason I managed to survive that concert. As my pal Wayne just joined. I went down to Baby Metal the year before, and had the great idea of if I got the Megabus, it was like a tenner. It was nothing. I thought, right, what I'll do is if I leave at 10 at night, it means I can sleep in the bus, and I'll arrive at 6 in the morning in London. And that didn't work. I didn't sleep at all. So I ended up arriving at London absolutely knackered at 6 in the morning, and then hanging about. And Wayne was coming from Leicester. I think he got at 10 or 11. So I sat in outside Buckingham Palace, trying to sleep, failing, and then we walked about all day, and there was one point I nearly passed out. We went to this, what was meant to be a guitar shop, but it wasn't. We were walking and I was pure passing out. And then eventually, just by eating kebabs and keeping going, I was like, right, going to the concert, you're absolutely dazed. The queue was right round the building, the Brixton Academy. And we're like, right, let's go for a pint. So it was like, so we walked about, and just across the road from the Brixton Academy, there was a shop that kind of looked like it might have sold Bucky. And then we went in and they did sell Bucky, so I paid £11.50 for a bottle, something like that. But I was still over the moon, and we just tanked it in the queue, which had now started moving. And so that gave me the energy for the concert. And then after the concert, I think I don't even remember going back to the B&B, but I'm pretty sure that when I went to the B&B, I was pretty much on the bed, sleep, like bang, awesome. One of my friends picked up a Patrick Eggle for 400 quid. That seems awful cheap for one that I don't think they're meant to be 400 quid. It's one of those ones that, it's outside my price range, but at that, if you're in the right place and maybe look at it. Yeah. So this one's got an active circuit in it. I was sure it wasn't active. I didn't know what this push-pull did. That's it on. Just a kind of boost thing. But when I was actually playing a gig, it was at the 13th Note in Glasgow. Used to just take one bass. At the time, I had the Music Master though, because I got one of my pals who hadn't yet arrived to go into my house and pick up the Music Master bass. So I used that for the gig. But I was sitting there and suddenly it just turned off, and it was like, oh no, it's broken. So I got the other bass. I didn't realise that basically if you pull this out, then it just bypasses the active thing, so it's just a normal P bass. So it's not an active pickup. That's a really handy feature that I would always recommend you fit to if you can. I suppose you can't if you get active pickup, but if you've got any sort of boost thing, have some way of bypassing it in case that it goes flat, so you can still at least play. But I was expecting a big bill. I took it into what was Sound Control at the time, and I think I went record shopping and then came back to the shop, because the guy's like, Apura, what are you doing? I was like, well, it's just when you turn it off, and he was like, Apura, so what does the switch do? It needs cleaned. I was like, I don't know. It's active then. I was like, no, there's no battery in it, because I had to take the scratch plate off. There's no 9-volt battery. The circuit board is like kind of like just a wee thing that size, but it's kind of wrapped in bubble wrap, or sort of 80s bubble wrap. And so there's no 9-volt battery. So, and he's like, but if it's a boost, it must be battery. So I was like, no. So I dropped it off at the Sound Control, went record shopping and came back. I was like, so how'd you get on with the bass? He's like, oh, there you go, done. And he charged me £3 because basically he'd gone to the shop round the corner and just bought like a battery, a watch type battery, the wee C cells, whatever you call them, for £1. He charged me £2 for the job. So well done to that guy, whoever you were in Sound Control, which isn't there anymore, now called Kenny's Music. So for many years, this was my bass, my only bass. Until, well, apart from I ended up buying the Fender Music Master just because my pal was short of money, and I bought it for so little, it was ridiculous. So I had this and the Music Master. I always preferred the headstock of the Music Master because it's got the Fender head, whereas this has got a telly head. So this is like I can't remember which year it is. Is it 57 Fender? When they still had the Telecaster headstock, but they just put on the P-bass type pickup. So it's kind of a copy of that. And this one is, I was saying about the date code in the neck brick, this one is Cocobolo. So it's a Cocobolo body, which about 2 weeks after I found that out, I ended up watching some terrible film. It was an animated film with penguins going surfing. And I think it was, I can't remember the name, not Val Kilmer. Who's the guy that's a bit like Val Kilmer? That's gone. I might get it back later. And he was talking about there was penguins like with crazy haircuts making surfboards, and they were saying that Cocobolo was the thing to make I was like, I heard that name. I've never heard it before. Apart from a couple of weeks before when I looked this up and found out it was Kokolo. So this might be the best P-Bass in the world. I've never really bought another P-Bass apart from another Schecter one, which I got because it was £100. The one that I put snakeskin on. The one that could have been in the band Fiction Factory. I think it was, because these things, again, I've never seen another one like this. You could buy the parts and either you bought the guitar, all the parts yourself, and then assembled it to make it. I don't think that happened very often. I think it was more the shop assembled them out of parts. So you could buy all these individual bits on their own and then assemble it yourself. I think both of these are slightly later, kind of after Schecter's heyday, when the guy, David Schechter, had already left and they were having money problems and stuff. Because I've seen this exact bridge, although it's branded Schecter, I've seen this made by Schaller in Germany. And I think there's similar items. I think at this point they kind of had, I think maybe about 1985 or something, or 1984, the company sort of split up, but they still had all the stock. So they were just using up the stock, making guitars out of it. And then in 1986 or 87, they brought out a run of actual guitars. And as soon as they brought out, in fact, actual proper guitars, Fender just went, oh, license. And then any ones you see after that don't have proper Fender headstocks because they've lost the license. So the ones you get later on in this they're really ugly headstocks as well. It's not like, I'm not that bothered about whether it doesn't have to have a Fender headstock, but it has to have a not ugly one, and the ones that are on Schecters later on are really ugly. A real shame. I've definitely got too many guitars releases. Yes, but the thing is, if I've got it out, I might never play anything else. I've even it's even got a money strap on it. I thought there was something wrong with the truss rods, but actually looking at it now that I know a little bit more about it, the truss rod's actually a bit fine. I think what it needs is a bit of a neck shim. The action is, it's not unplayably high, it's just slightly high here. So I might need to put a wee neck shim in below it. Also, I thought the frets were knackered, but it turns out they were just green. The problem with this was I used to use this when I was 19, 20 gigging, and it would be getting sweated on and thumped on all night. And then, the following week you'd go into the studio and you'd open the case and it would be totally fungus growing on it. So it's done all that. It's like, nowadays I can appreciate it a little bit more. I didn't really realise it was a really expensive one. Although it was the most expensive bass I've ever bought, it's still cheaper than a Fender or something like that. And it used to be the most amazing bird's eye maple. One day, I'm now getting to the stage that I'll wait till I can do it. I'd like to refinish the neck and get it back to the bird's eye maple that it is, because I know it is, but you can't see it because of all the damage on it. And the neck on this one is nitro as well, and the body, whereas on the telly the neck isn't nitro, or it's not all cracked, so I don't think it is. I kind of don't want to take this into the Black Sabbath band because I know the guys will like it, especially Craig, the guitarist. He likes his expensive stuff. People like that, oh, that's a Schecter. Oh, they're not really good. And it's like, and if you look this sort of thing up on, well, obviously Reverb, I mean, there was a Strat that kind of looked a bit like that, and it was like $5,000 or something. You're like, oh, right. I mean, obviously, I say these are the most expensive. I've never paid anything like that. That's pure stupid. I remember when I bought this, my pal G, maybe only a couple of months later, got a tax break or something like that, or like what's it called, tax refund, and he bought himself a Fender jazz bass, and it was £900, like an all blonde jazz bass, and it was very nice, but this was just better, just totally better. By that point, I was starting to think, the Schecter might be, it's not as good as a Fender, it's significantly better. It's kind of as good as a 50s or 60s Fender, not as good as anything else since then. And I wasn't much of a telly fan, but at one point I remember trying. My pal Peg had a telly, or has a telly, that I hated. I'd had a few shots of it, absolutely hated it. And then one time, for whatever reason, I ended up having to play it for half an hour one night when we were having a jam, and it was the only guitar or something like that, and I ended up sort of getting it. And then a couple of weeks later, I went in and tried a Jeff Beck Telecaster in McCormick's, and it was like pure, this is amazing. It was like, this is fantastic. This is how much is this? A Squire one? Oh no, it's not. It's a Fender one. How much is this? And it was 1,500 quid. And it's like, all right. And then a couple of weeks later, up popped that. I was looking for Schecters to try and get a date this. I kind of wanted a Strat, and there was that one, and I went and played it. As soon as I played it, it was like, this is the best guitar I've ever played. I tried to offer the guy had a starting bid on it. I tried to offer him the starting bid. He's like, no, I'm kind of wanting a bit more than that. We'll see what happens. So last second, I bid my maximum amount and then got it. And the guy was pretty much in tears, and I went to pick it up. It was a shame. I felt sorry for him, but not that sorry for him to let him keep it. I didn't have any more money than what I had for it anyway. Quite funny. Oh, can I play my original aria? Of course, yes. It's different from this. Actually, I had the aria before I had this, but I never had them both at the same time. So this, even though these both used to be mine, this is the first time they've both been in the same room in 20 something years. But this thing is well, it's now got two pickups, because it only ever had one pickup, or only one of them worked. So now it's got two, so I don't need any excuse to play it. Kill some of the volume in this. Love it. I don't think the action is actually that high on the Schecter. I think it's just because I've been playing that this thing, which is actually a baritone guitar, so the action on it's just lower than what a bass is. But when I started in the Black Sabbath band, the After the End, I had most of these basses, and I was taking them in, and as soon as I started thumping them, when I was playing them in the house, it was fine. But as soon as I started thumping them, Geezer Butler style, the strings kept hitting off. They kept fretting out. The strings kept hitting off the fingerboards, because, you know, obviously when you're playing well in the studio through a big band, with a big band, you want to be absolutely thumping them. So you kind of had to go through them all, lower the pickups and raise the action, and put the truss rod back to not being straight. You want a little bit of relief in the bass. This is like a speed bass. It's only 32-inch scale, whereas the P bass is 34. And the new pickups never had a big pickup. Must be about 1982, I think. It might be 1983. 3. Serial number starts with a 3. Yes. So I would have been 4 at the time. So when I bought this in 97 or 98, whatever it was about as unfashionable a guitar as you could possibly get. That's why it was like 100 quid or something like that. For some reason, I think it was either 80 or 120. I think it was 120. And I got 60 quid for it, trading it in against the EBO. And I always regretted it. But the 32-inch scale is just, it's just the best scale. Unfortunately, it normally makes it a bit smaller, but this guitar is absolutely huge. I had to buy a special case for it, because obviously Explorers and Flying V's are really awkward if you've got one anyway, but when you've got it as a bass, it's even more so. I mean, if it's a 34-inch, it'd be out to here. You know, it's like... And if you've never played an Explorer, it's a really strange feeling because there's no guitar here. You know, like the same with this and the Destroyer I had as well. Actually, when I bought the Destroyer, I remember going, "Oh, this is just like the Aria bass. I wish I still had the Aria bass." Right, I'm going to try and cut it short rather than just let it rabble on like I normally do. So, cheers everyone for joining in. I got to my 10, I got 16, so that's like a total result, especially for the first attempt. I wasn't really sure whether the scheduling it. I tried to schedule it like an hour earlier, and I ended up getting nervous. It's like, why? I don't get nervous doing videos, but it's like because I had this ticking clock for an hour, and then I wasn't sure how I would click on it. You know, if how easy it was going to be. So it actually was. It just when I clicked on it, it just came up, was go live, bang. It even went beep to tell me when it was 7 o'clock. So rocking chairs. Actually, I got a wee guy brought down. Sorry, calling you a wee guy. A young chap, because I'm old now. Brought around some guitars this afternoon. So I've got some interesting guitars to do this week. We did the social distancing thing, and I made him stand outside with his mask on, him and his girlfriend in the absolute freezing snow. Well, I was absolutely freezing, even though I was wearing a jumper and standing next to a heater. So I've got a few guitars. A big hitting video as well, because all my biggest viewing videos are all of guitars that aren't mine, because they're all talking of pointed guitars, an Ibanez XV500. Is that a Xiphos? I know the Xiphos, which is kind of, I don't really know. Sounds like a modern one. Oh, there is another one in the X series. It's kind of strange looking. I can't really picture it. Oh, cottage pie. That sounds good. I had pasta. It was all right. Kind of going a bit pasta mental these days. So, cheers, rock on, stay safe, and play the guitar all the time. And drink Bucky, which I think I might just sit and watch. I've been watching Snowpiercer, and it's like there's a special guest, or not a special guest, the second series just started, and one of my favourite actors ever is in it. It's up here, way. So, rock on, catch you later, and thanks very much. Cheers. Obviously, it'll take a wee while to find the button that says end stream. End stream. Okay, now end stream.